Maybe your kids have recently flown the coop, or you're staring down the barrel at it, or maybe you've been an empty nester for years, but you still struggle with it. It's a brand new time in your life. Maybe you are alone with your spouse or by yourself for the first time in 18 years, probably longer, especially if you have more kids. And it can be disorienting at the very least, but it also can be a really, really challenging time. And this is true especially if you really identify as a parent and that is your main identification, because then once the kids are gone, what are you supposed to do? You know, often our recreation is centered around the kids, our family activities, all of our scheduling, and then all of a sudden all of that is gone. My name is Erdman-Luntz, and I've been a life coach and yoga educator for over 30 years now. And I became an empty nester, my husband and I, about 18 months ago. So while I'm just fairly new along this path, I've also worked with many clients over my 30 years, helping them navigate this time. So I had a little bit of a head start, had an idea of what to expect. And in this video, I want to share with you a few really simple tips to help you navigate this time and to make it more of a time of beautiful change rather than paralyzing sadness. Now, before we get into this, I have two caveats that are really important to get clear first. The first one is, it is okay to be sad. It is normal to be sad. There is definitely a natural grieving process that will occur when your kids leave home. Mine was about 6 weeks with each of my kids. The tears came less often, right? So that is a natural process that you want to go through and experience. What I don't want to see is for the sadness to continue for years and years and years, to feel like the lion's share of your life is done and life is over, and now what? I'm done. I'm just kind of waiting to retire and then die. I mean, ultimately, right? Because you have a lot of life left. I don't know about you. I was 53 when we became empty nesters, and I have a feeling I'm going to I'm going to last until my 90s or even my hundreds, which means I'm pretty much halfway through. That's a lot more life to live, and I want to encourage you to live it fully. Now, the second thing I do want to point out is I am a life coach, not a therapist. Okay, so my work is helping you change perspective, maybe see things a little differently, and also to take some action that helps shift things. Sometimes this time in life can be truly traumatizing, and if that's true, you might need a little bit more help. Now, that's not to say what I'm going to share with you in this video won't help. It probably will, but definitely seek out even more help if that's what you need. So what I want to share with you today are 3 really simple tips. Well, the first 2 are pretty simple. The third one might be simple. Stay tuned. That's all I'm going to say about it so far. And these simple tips are what will help you navigate change in your life with a little bit more poise, a little bit more ease, a little more grace, if you will. And I did create a printable for you. It's totally free. Just click and you can download it. No opt-in, no nothing. I just want you to have it. And in that, actually, I have a lot of resources, especially for women in midlife. So a lot of free resources. So you might want to go check that out. So like I said, I'm going to share with you 3 different areas for change, to navigate change, because change is challenging. And the reason it's challenging is because our brain is actually wired to maintain the status quo. It's safer. Okay, I'm going to use it in quotes because it isn't always comfortable, but we know it. And so it's safer. We know what it's like to have our kids at home. We don't know what it's like to send them out in the world, right? It's scary. And this is a really subconscious, even primal thing to maintain the status quo, because it is the way our brain is wired, but especially to protect our brood, right? It's very primal to not want to let them go out on their own. But at the same time, we don't want them to stay home either forever, right? Like, if we do our job well, they won't need us in the same way they have. So that is the goal. So the 3 things we're going to look at is, first one is perspective. How to shift your perspective around what is happening, just so you can see it from a new angle, and that often helps a lot. The second thing are going to be super simple things you can do around the house just to shift the energy of your home. This is something that you can start right away, so it's super handy. And the third one, I'll share with you when we get there. This one is that kind of big one, depending on where you are in your life, that I definitely recommend tapping into. So if you're ready, let's get into our first one. So let's begin with the first part, and that is changing your perspective. So your perspective is your point of view, what you're looking at. And if you are experiencing, let's just say, extended sadness, it's not part of that normal grieving, you're really holding on to it. It's because you're looking at the past and you're feeling the loss, right? You're missing the child and you're focused on what you no longer have. I know I'm super simplifying it, but again, stick with me. I'm a life coach. We keep it simple. We're not going to go dive deep into it. But at the same time, I can help you shift this perspective, okay? So what I'm going to do is I have a few questions for you that I'm going to ask, and I want you to think about them and notice how it begins to shift where you are focused. Now, these are in that handout I told you about, the printable, that you can grab down below. So there's a link there. Just go grab it. No opt-in, no nothing. It's yours. And the pages I have for the journaling questions are easily printed. There's not a lot of color or anything. So just go grab those pages and take a little bit of time over a glass of wine or a cup of tea or coffee to think about these questions and respond to them. If you do have a spouse, this is a nice thing to do together, or if you have a friend who's going through a similar thing, it's a nice thing to share with another person. So the first thing I want you to journal around is all the things you are grateful for around the child who's left home or is leaving home. Think about how maybe you're grateful that they got into a good college, or they've got a good job, or they feel solid and independent enough to leave home. That does mean that you did a good job, right? Maybe they're traveling and you're proud of that. Maybe they're kind, they have sweethearts, they've got great friends. My kids have great friends, and that's one of those things that I always looked at and thought, okay, I raised a great person if they attract wonderful people into their lives. So I want you to think about your child and think of at least 3 things that you are grateful for around that child. And then I want you to pause and actually really feel it. So that's the key to a truly powerful gratitude practice, one that actually shifts the perspective we're talking about, is to not just, write it down, but to sit and think about it. It's like, I am so grateful that this child is in a great college. I am really grateful that this child is feeling confident enough to travel. That's each of my kids. One of my children went to a great college. The other one, not college bound, at least yet. He's still considering it, but he's traveling the world. He's an entrepreneur, and I am so grateful he feels confident to do that. He went to his first country by himself at the age of 18, and he is now 20, and I think he said he's been to 4 continents and 7 countries. It's amazing, right? And to just sit there and go, wow, that's fantastic. And while I believe in nature, I also believe in nurture. I think it's a 50-50. I do see the difference in my children and their personalities, and know they were born into this world with certain personalities. But you also played a part in where they are and what they're doing. And this is your opportunity to sit there and gloat. Let yourself be proud of what you did, because you played a part in all those things you are grateful for in your child. There's a piece of that that's because of you and because of the great parenting that you did. Okay, question number 2. I want you to think of at least 3 things that you can do now that you're an empty nester that you couldn't do before. So think of the things that you now have time for, maybe you have money for, that you have space in your life for, because you don't have the kids living at home. And just take a moment to just write all of that out. I said at least 3, but if you got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, feel free to write them all out. All right, question number 3. I want you to write down at least 3 things that you are grateful that you don't have to do now that the kids don't live at home. 3 things you no longer have to do. Maybe it's extra laundry, changing their sheets, making extra meals or snacks. I have different diets with everybody in the home. My husband and I have pretty much the same diet, so it's great because now I really only have to cook one meal. I was cooking 2 and 3 meals every single meal. It was overwhelming. Maybe you had to help someone get out of bed in the morning and get ready. I did that with my son. That was fun. So what are the things you no longer have to do? And that's going to free up time, money, space, energy, whatever. The fourth one is kind of fun. I want you to think of any of the things that you had to set aside because of the responsibilities of having kids. So the things you used to do before kids that you might want to do again. And it could be anything. It could be travel, entertainment, things you did in your spare time. I have a girlfriend who said, oh my word, I used to read novels all the time. I haven't read a novel in 25 years. I thought, oh, I get it. For me, it was a long yoga practice, and I haven't gotten back to it, but I used to do 3 hours every day. Yeah, back in the day, between meditation and breathing and yoga. And it's one of those things I've been thinking about. It's like, wow, you know what? I could do that again. So whether or not you want to do it, it doesn't matter. The point is to realize, wait, I could do it again. Like I get excited that I have the space in my life to be able to do it, and I'm still deciding if that's what I'm going to do with my time, right? So think about the things that you gave up that you may or may not want to bring back into your life. Now, just take a moment to read through all of that and feel it. Can you feel how it shifts your perspective from looking backward with sadness to looking forward with a little bit more excitement? And that's what I want you to think about and where I want you to focus. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. Sadness is normal through this process. Extended sadness for years and years is not. So if just a shift in perspective makes a difference for you, then this is a very powerful, powerful practice for you. Okay, are you ready for the next step? So this next one we're going to talk about is changing your environment, your energy of your home, your schedule, that sort of thing, to help your brain realize that things are different, and it helps the brain acclimate to a new change. Plus it just feels much better, right? So the first one of these is simply change your morning and or evening routine. There's a good chance you have a certain set of things that you do every morning and every night before bed. And if you don't, you're going to soon. And there's also a good chance that at least part of that morning and evening routine was centered around your child. Even if your child was older, there's a good chance you had to, in the morning, make sure they were up on time for school, or you got breakfast for them or lunch, made sure they got all of their school supplies before they caught the bus. In the evening, you had to make sure they were in bed on time in order to be well rested for the next day. Maybe they were out late, so you were up late worrying about them until they were home. There's a certain amount of energy, no matter how old or young our children are, that goes into those routines that you no longer have. So taking a little time to figure out, okay, so how do I want my morning to unfold, and changing the way it is helps your brain go, oh, times are different, and actually this is a good thing, right? Like this morning routine feels really good. Incorporating a whole slew of self-care in your morning and evening is really powerful, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. So think about what it is that you want your morning to encompass. What do you want your evening to encompass? And creating a routine that really supports where you're going. Okay, so the second thing is along the same lines, and that is to shift your own wellness routine, or start one, or get back to one if you haven't done one since your kids were born. What can you do to take care of yourself? And let's talk a little bit about self-care here, because self-care is really important, and it's become so overused in the wellness realm right now. And yet every client I get, that's where we start, because self-care is your fuel. It's your energy. It's what, I was going to say literally fills you up. Okay, yeah, I'm going to say it's not, I love people's use of literal because they literally don't use it correctly. But energetically, it is literally your fuel. Okay, this is what gives you the energy to process the grief, to change things in your life, to change your morning and evening routines. You know when you have things that come up in your life and you're like, I just don't have the bandwidth for this. It's self-care that gives you the bandwidth. Okay, so now is the time to really evaluate your wellness routine. Now, I have a couple of videos for you out on YouTube. I will link to them below that you're going to want to check out. Especially if you're a woman. I realize there could be men watching this video, but there are 5 wellness things you really want to be thinking about when we reach that certain age, and you're probably close to it if you have kiddos leaving the home. So you can definitely check that out and use that as a guideline as you move forward with your own wellness and fill yourself up. Like, realize that this is now your time, right? The kids are gone. You've got the time and space to start to put more attention on yourself. One thing I've been doing this whole year, I'm filming this in September of 2024. So for 2024, I claimed it my year to thrive. And I am taking every single month, I'm taking 2 weeks out of every month to do a reset, a lifestyle reset, where I'm focusing on a different area of my own wellness and committing to a habit there that I want to do. And theoretically anyway, the idea is that at the end of 2 weeks, I continue that habit because it feels good. Mostly it's worked, not always, but we're getting there. And I definitely recommend that. It's one of the videos that I'm going to share with you below. I tell the story about it, and I also have a blog post where I write about it. So you can check that out. And feel free to join me. Whether it's 2024 or in the future, I will have the information about what I did out there so that you can do this for yourself as well. The next change is actually really easy, and it can make such a difference. And it is simply rearranging your furniture. Have you ever done that where you rearrange the furniture and everything freshens up? It like feels better in your space. It's really incredibly powerful. Even if you're just rearranging your knickknacks. Again, this helps the brain go, oh yeah, things are different now. And that's what we want to do, right? We want to help our brain embrace the change, and our hearts. And rearranging your furniture can be a really big deal. One of the things that my husband and I did is we rethought our rooms. How do we want to be using our rooms? It was something an interior decorator told us to do once. We have a very small house, but we do have a room downstairs it's just off my son's bedroom, and it's a little family room kind of area. But we never use it. He used it with his friends, but we've never really used it. And she said it's because it doesn't have a purpose. You know, do you want to see it as an office? Do you want to see it as where you write or where you read? Give it a purpose. And so it's something that we have started thinking about now that our son has left home and we get to reclaim that room. What do we want to do with it? Because it's just like a wasted square footage down there. So rethink your rooms. If it's appropriate, you know, how do we want to use the den? How do we want to use the living room? And when you feel ready and when your child has truly moved out, how do you want to use their room? Now, if they're just in college and they're coming back for holidays and summers, then clearly it stays their room if that's what you want to do. Our daughter graduated from college a year and a half ago. And so her room is definitely my office now, 100%. And it took a little bit for my husband to embrace it. When she was home for COVID for a year and a half, it was obviously her room. It had been my office until then, but it became her room during that time, obviously. And when she left, she turned to me and she said, okay, Mom, it's yours now. I won't be home again. You know, the next summer she went to France for the summer and studied, and then she graduated and moved out. And so I've been able to slowly, took a little time, like listen to your heart. It was a little easier for me than my husband. I had to go slowly, but slowly moved her things out and moved my things in. And it became my office. So, you know, rethinking their room. What do you want to do with that space? That is prime real estate in your home, right? The last suggestion I have kind of goes along with the one I just talked about, and that is clearing out clutter. My husband and I have been on a clearing out clutter rampage for about a year and a half. I know, it sounds like we should be done. But we get going for about a month, and then 3 months goes by and we don't do anything. But we've been getting to all those corners of the house that we haven't touched in forever. Really working through everything, and it feels so good. It just freshens up the energy, right? It feels amazing We've done countertops, we've done cupboards, we've gotten rid of staple supplies in the kitchen that we never use. How many times do you buy that one sauce for a recipe and then you forget the recipe or you didn't like it, but the sauce stays in the fridge because it lasts forever? There's so many preservatives. We got rid of all the things. It was fantastic. It has been fantastic and it continues. Okay, so that is the few things that you can do. Super simple, right? Like, this is not tricky, but just ways that you can shift the energy, the feeling of your home and your life to help you shift that perspective to the moving forward, not longing and looking back energy. Yeah, it's really powerful. Now, if you're ready, let's get into the third piece. The one I said you can do if you feel ready. I kind of think you are, though. All right, I wanted to snuggle in for this one a little bit because we're going to talk. When you feel ready, maybe you were already there. I don't want to rush you, but realize that this time in life is a great time to focus on what it is that you really, 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 really want. And we're talking that 4 reallys for a purpose, because I want you to dig into your heart of hearts and figure out what it is you really want for your life. It is so easy to think, my time is done. I've finished. My kids are grown, and now I'm just waiting for retirement. Now is the time where you've got the time, usually a little extra discretionary money to spend on yourself, to step into what it is you really want. Maybe it's travel, or you want to write a novel or start a business. What is it that really gets your heart excited? And if you are thinking it's too late, in many cultures, this is the time where you become that truly productive person in society, or you embark on your spiritual path because you are done with the kids. Like, you've done your family duty and now you can focus on you. Now, if you're still feeling like you're too old, I've got a couple of stories to share with you. The first one of my favorites, is Louise Hay. So Louise Hay was 60 when she started Hay House Publications, which is an internationally renowned publishing house now. She was 60 when she started it. If you see any spirituality books out there, I'm telling you, Hay House probably produced it. And she remained at the helm until she was in, I believe, mid or late 80s, and she died in her 90s, still active. She wasn't at the helm anymore, but she was still active. She had over 20 years of a career that she started when she was 60. Another story I like to share is a 72-year-old woman who came in to talk to me when I owned my yoga studio. And I had a yoga teacher training, and she sat down to chat, and she said, laughingly, I haven't really decided what I want to be when I grow up. She was a retired therapist, but she was looking for something to do in another career from 72 on. And she was fabulous. She whispered in a conspiratorial tone that she lived with her boyfriend of 25 years. We're not married. It was fantastic. And then she said at one point, I miss rollerblading, but if I go rollerblading, Bob, her boyfriend, who was 10 years older than she was, if I go rollerblading, I'll know he'll want to go with me. And at 82, I don't think he should be rollerblading anymore. Oh, she was so alive and exciting. I just love that. Now, I have one final story for you. This one is one of my very favorites. I read about it a while ago, and it just inspires me. So there was a 64-year-old woman who experienced one of those extraordinary feats of strength when an emergency occurred. She was babysitting her grandchild, and they were in the driveway, and the car, which was parked in the driveway, rolled back onto her grandchild. It was on her grandchild's leg, and she lifted the car up to help the child out. And after that, it became this sensational story, and reporters kept trying to get an interview, and she kept refusing interviews until finally one interviewer got through. One reporter sat down with her and said, "Why do you keep refusing interviews?" And she said, "Look, you get to be my age. When you do something that amazing, you can't help but wonder what you could have done in your life." And he said, "Well, what did you want to do?" And she said, "I wanted to be a geologist." And he goes, "Look, you're going to be 68 in 4 years. You can be 68 and a geologist, or 68 and exactly where you are. She went back to school, she got a degree, and she taught, from the story, she taught into her 80s. So she had about a 15-year career that started at 68. Isn't that amazing? So I just want to share this with you because this is such an amazing time in your life. And it can be an amazing time, but it has to come from you. You're the one who is in control right now. So do what you have to do to get yourself in a better space right now if you're still struggling. Those first two things I shared with you are going to help you shift your perspective, move into a better space, be more excited about where you are, and then take the next steps to figure out what it is you really, 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 really want. And I'll share with you down below some resources to help you with this, or you can always reach out to me. I would be honored to work with you and help you figure it out what it is you really want to do and take those next steps to get it started. All right, there you have it. The things that can help you shift your perspective to move into a better space around the change that is happening with your changing family. And I'm telling you, just do one of the things and see what happens. Just begin to play with it. In fact, comment below and let me know what is that thing that you are going to begin to work on. I'd love to hear. Now, next steps. You're definitely going to want to watch my next video coming out. I believe it's the next one, where I actually have a yoga series to help you embrace change. Yeah, you can actually do that on the yoga mat. It's incredibly powerful. And I'm going to share with you my ebook that can really help you begin to figure out what it is you really, really, really want. Gets you kind of excited about where you're going. I'm here to help you feel better and better and better and better. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you in the next video.